This man's work it can be seen on Audience every day, actually, at 7 Eastern Time when Mad Men is on it's on every day.
They
here.
run a lot of them. Can we talk about how much your little logo looks like Don Draper, by the way?
I definitely want to talk about that. Let's do that right out of the gate with you, Jon Hamm. It does look very...
If his cup was empty, it would have been better. It would have been a better joke.
Well, I mean, yes. It would, by the way, you could spill anytime you want here. You could do that. But yeah, I get that all the time.
It's great.
By the way,
I feel like it's a little bit of a nod because we've known each other forever.
It is a nod.
I'll take it.
It definitely is that. And the aspect about this that I will reveal is that is an absolute, genuine carbon copy of my running style, with the exception of my right leg being photoshopped in to make it look a little bit more of a, shall we say, athletic.
Okay. You usually have a little kick out. You have a little kick out problem?
You say, okay. I've got a kick out problem. Boy, do I have a kick out problem. Jon Hamm in Beirut in theaters near you right now. It's been
Go
out
see
for
it. It's a good film.
It is.
I'm glad that you saw it. I'm glad that you liked it. You were very kind. You sent me a nice text.
It's great.
But yeah, it's a movie that they kind of don't make anymore. It feels like a movie that you would have seen like 5 of in the 1970s,
yes.
like 3 Days of the Condor, or Parallax View, or whatever these kind of things are. But it's a smart movie about politics and about like how did we get here from there. And I'm really proud of it. We made it in God, we shot it in only like 30 some odd days in North Africa, and it was hot and difficult, but we made a great movie. Tony Gilroy wrote the script. Brad Anderson directed it. It's me, Roz Pike, Dean Norris, you mentioned. Shea Wiggum, all these amazing actors.
Yeah, he's great in Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
Shea Wiggum was great in Boardwalk
Empire. And God, what's the thing? The Danny McBride thing? Vice Principals.
That's
also
right.
Really funny. that's a funny guy.
That's right. You shot this in Morocco. Obviously, it's about Beirut. And you mentioned Tony Gilroy, who writes it. He wrote and directed Michael Clayton.
Yeah.
And your character in this film has a very Michael Clayton
similar kind of
story
thing. A negotiator whose job is to kind of go in and fix what can't be fixed. And when you talk about sort of political situations, obviously the Middle East is a situation that needs some fixing. And
yes.
and what this movie really does is kind of starts before it all goes sideways, and then lives through the aftermath and kind of works toward figuring out how we got to where we are now.
Starts in the 70s, ends in the 80s, essentially.
And the run up to the embassy bombing and the Marine Corps barracks bombing in the early 80s.
When you take a film like this, John, do you read up? Because this is how good I say for good movies is when I will then, once it's over,
go to Wikipedia.
Go online. Yes, yeah. I will go online and read more about it.
Oh yeah, fully, of course.
Which is what Beirut did for me.
Fully, yeah.
Do you do that when you get to a script?
100%.
Okay?
Like and especially when I get to shoot in a different country or whatever, you're kind of surrounded by. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see much of Morocco because I was working every day. We were shooting 6-day weeks. But I would see the inside of my hotel room, and I would see, set. That was it. Mm-hmm. But going home at night, you kind of process everything that you were working on or learning about, and that's the upside of the internet is that information is at your fingertips at any time, and you can, if you're at all interested, you can figure it out. I did the same thing when I did $1 Million Arm, shooting in Bombay, in Mumbai. You're like, there's so many questions. You're just like, how does this place work?
Right.
So it's fun. That's the best part of traveling.
Yeah, and then $1 Million Arm. While we're on the subject, I mean that was a neat movie with a nice little sports angle to it. Right there.
I do like a sports movie. I'll be dead honest with you.
Well, which is your favorite? If you had to choose a
my favorite sports movie of all time?
Yes, sir.
Probably The Natural.
That's it, huh?
I mean, there's something about that. First of all, I'm a baseball guy. You know this.
Yes, I do.
I'm a St. Louis guy. It's kind of bred into us. But there's something about the kind of lyricism and poetry to that film that captures all of the good of baseball and all of what it means in America. And the guy that wrote that book, Bernard Malamud, I think his name was, said whoever wants to know the hearts and minds of America had better watch baseball, because that's kind of who we are.
Well, I don't want to do the spoiler alert for those who may not have read The Natural, but the movie ending is quite different from the actual book.
And that ending. Come on.
The ending with him throwing with his son. And
come on. The thing, he blows out all the lights, the ball keeps going, and then lands in his kid's glove. That's it.
Right.
Turn him on.
And then, when he swings, when Roy Hobbs swings and hits that home run before he does, and you see that's bleeding
Oh, yeah.
through his jersey, and that's real blood, unlike the sock many years ago, where that was
had
a
surgery.
red Sharpie.
He has a scar on his foot.
He's a Red Sox fan. I love to sort of give him grief for that.
Ugh. Yeah. I kind of want to talk about it.
Well, I mean, you with the Cardinals.
Yes, I don't want to talk about it. I'd rather talk about the 60s Cardinals versus the Red Sox.
Well, what about
the
the
2000s.
current? What about your current state of the Cardinals right now?
They're on
John?
top.
The Cardinals and
Just swept the Reds. They're sitting on top of the Central.
yes.
Cubs are scuffling at 500. It's
You
a
gotta
great
love
time
that.
to be a Cardinal fan.
You got to love that, right?
April.
But any time that the Cubs are sending their fan base into a little bit
Paroxysms of doubt where they lived for 100 years.
well, that's the interesting thing too. Jon Hamm on the Rich Eisen show here is that once Red Sox fans
Yes.
won,
Yes.
they kind of didn't know in a way what to do with that.
They were still
process it.
insufferable.
Well, they still are.
Yeah.
I get that. But in terms of Cubs fans now,
Same deal.
well, they finally have won.
You get a taste of that sweet nectar, and they're kind of like, first of all, they want more.
Right.
And second of all, they realize really hard to do it again. Even though they have a wonderful team and best record in baseball over the last couple of years. But still, you got to win. You got to win in the postseason, man.
Do you enjoy, I guess, the sort of post-victory wandering that's
Sure.
going on right now?
Sure.
You enjoy that?
Of course.
Now, you did wear a Cardinals hat to the World
Yes, I did.
Series in Wrigley, right?
Yes, I did.
How did that go over?
Not great.
I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
I did too.
I
And
thought
my
it was
point
great.
was, and I spoke to several Cubs fans who introduced themselves to me over the course of the evening. I said, well, come on, like, what would you do? What would you wear?
Right.
I'm not gonna wear a Cubs hat. That would be ridiculous. And so, you know, again, this is my getting back to the movie. I'm a very good negotiator. I would talk to people and say, when you
Okay.
talk to people face to face, they get your point of view, right? So I would say, look, I'm a Cardinal fan. That's fine. I'm actually rooting for the Cubs because I always root for the National League. So
Okay.
I'm like, if you know, we don't make the World Series every year. We have won 11 championships though, so don't worry about it. Second only in baseball to the New York Yankees.
I like it.
But it's. I said I'm rooting for you, but I can't rep
Right.
a team that's not my team. Would you wear an Ohio State hat ever?
Oh, funny you should bring that up, John.
What did I miss? You lost a bet.
Yes, I did.
Losing a bet is one thing.
Okay.
And by the way,
Yes.
after Game 5 when they won, and there was a big party
Yes.
outside Wrigley in one of the bars there,
Yes.
Bill Murray took my hat off my head and threw it over the wall and into the alley. And then Eddie Vedder made me stage dive off a table. And I was like, dude, I'm not a rock star. They're not going to catch me. I'm also not from Chicago or a Cub fan. And he goes, it'll be fine. I was like, no, it won't at all. Like, that's a concrete floor that you're wanting me to jump off a picnic table into the supportive fans. He goes, it'll be fine. He goes, here, wear my hat. So I put his Cubs hat on and jumped in, and I got caught, thankfully.
So do you think if you did not put on Eddie Vedder's Cubs hat, you
I would
hit
have been dropped like a hot rock. And the good news is, because I love that hat, there was a little door to the alley, like almost like a cartoon door. And Bill Murray threw the hat over the wall, and I went, there's a door right here. And I opened it, was sitting on the other side of the wall. And I came in, put it back on. I was back in the thing. I was like, all right, we did this.
You got it back.
Got it back.
Oh, it's fantastic.
What a story.
Back in 60 seconds with Jon Hamm. Again, Beirut. Wait till you hear the film that sparked Beirut. Wait till you hear the film. What can we call it, from the sports oeuvre that sparked the movie Beirut? An ice skating film that many of us forgot.
I think it has to. Yes, it's definitely a sports.
Okay, it goes natural and then this film.
Easily.
That's next in 60 seconds on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, Jon Hamm, another segment here. Beirut has been in theaters since April 11th. What are you waiting for? As you point out, John, it's a smart movie. It's a movie. It's kind of a throwback. It is definitely a throwback. And Tony Gilroy wrote and directed it, meaning he wrote it. He wrote and directed Michael Clayton, which is one of my favorite.
Clayton wrote the Bourne series.
Did he do Rogue One too?
He did some additional stuff on Rogue One. He's a phenomenal talent. And as you mentioned, this script was written in 1992. And most times when things are written and then not made, they sit on a shelf and they kind of gather dust, and no one knows what to do with them. This movie almost got made a bunch of times in the 90s and then didn't, because the political element wasn't considered, sort of box office worthy or whatever.
Or right for the times.
Or it was too close to the thing happening in the 80s. And there was all these stories, but Tony wrote it because he wrote his first script as a young kind of up-and-coming writer was a little movie called The Cutting Edge, which I know is a huge favorite of yours.
Well, I am
You're
a big
D.B. Sweeney guy.
Well, he was great in 8 Men Out.
Sure.
As Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Sure.
And so, I might have kicked the tires on The Cutting
Why
Edge.
not? Why wouldn't you?
Big fan of Maura Kelly.
And who
ice
doesn't
skating
want to
film.
see a romantic comedy about a figure skater and a hockey player finally making it work?
Toe pick.
Toe pick. We all get it.
We get it.
So Tony wrote that script.
There it is up on the screen.
Look
There's
at
a
that.
nice
Look at how
movie
young
poster.
they were.
Look how young they were.
God, they're babies.
So Tony Gilroy wrote that?
Wrote that script. Was then considered a Hollywood kind of hot property, right? And they were like, well, you need to write all the romantic comedies. And he's like, I don't want to do that. I want to write these kind of, more thriller, political things. And so somebody was like, okay, well then write what you want to write. And he wrote the script. And he did a deep dive into like what was the situation in Lebanon in the 70s and why did it go south and like what was the beginnings of all of this. And he wrote this amazing script. And Tony will say this, like he had this amazing experience of having to come back to it almost 30 years later and rewrite himself. So go through it again and kind of like, I don't like this so much, and I can do this and I can rewrite this. And so that was what we had. And he was in London working on Rogue One when we were shooting. So he came down and he punched up the script and we did a table read, and then he gave it to Brad, our director, and off we went.
Off you went. And then now you wound up in Morocco and you shoot this thing. So you're saying that we're not going to see a Cutting Edge 2? Is that what you're saying?
I think now more than ever we can certainly try.
We're creating the buzz right now.
I think there already was one, actually.
No, there was not. Are you serious?
Come on.
I
There was a
definitely
Cutting
think
Edge
there
2? Was it the Virtue and Moyer story?
Stand by.
I've been told that the
Going
Cutting
for
Edge made
gold.
$25 million. Are you serious? It was called Going for Gold? No way.
Yeah, The Cutting Edge Going for Gold. 2006. They made a Cutting Edge 3, Chasing the Dream.
Wow.
And then a Cutting Edge 4,
No, that's not
Fire
true.
and Ice.
Stop it. And that's what birthed Game of Thrones. Is that the Fire and Ice?
A song of ice and fire and ice skates.
And Toe Pick.
It was the original, and toe picks.
Sir Sweeney of House DB. Oh my gosh. So I know this might be a sore subject, but I could not believe the St. Louis Blues have never won a Stanley Cup.
They've never won a Stanley Cup. They were. I thought when last we spoke.
Yes.
On this show was last year around this time.
Yes.
And the Blues had a very good team, poised to go deep into the playoffs, which they did.
Yes.
Eventually losing to the Stanley Cup runner-up, Nashville Predators. I think this might be 2 years ago. I can't even remember. But we had a good run. We missed the playoffs by 1 point this year. We had a lot of injuries. We had a it's the NHL, as you well know, is about managing injuries, because you can't play that 82 game season and not get dinged up. It's just there's way too much going on. Guys get hit by pucks. Guys get hit by other guys. The boards. That's the situation, and it's hard. And we came on the bad end of that equation this year, but we're going to be just fine. We are. It's imminent. And when St. Louis wins its first Stanley Cup,
Yes.
I will be there, and the place is going to go bonkers. I know it.
You'll be there with, and will you make Eddie Vedder put on a Blues hat
Probably
or something like
at
that?
some point.
I love that story, man. That's a fantastic story. And you're now doing a voiceover for a Ted Williams documentary.
Yeah,
on
I got reached out
PBS.
by PBS. They do a thing called American Masters, and they're doing the story of Ted Williams, which, not being a Boston guy, like I knew, of course, who he was, but I immediately went to Wikipedia and did a deep dive on Ted Williams as soon as they asked me to do it, and I thought, oh my gosh, like this guy's story's amazing.
Yeah, how about fighting for the U.S. in Korea?
Yeah,
and then coming back
take
and hitting
4
400.
years off of in the prime of your athletic career, and then come back and hit the ball like you know.
Yeah,
no big deal.
yeah, and hit 400.
Yeah, and no one's done it since. Well, George Brett came close.
He came close, but yeah,
No one's done it since.
I mean that guy's. I mean,
And
what a story.
You know, it's like
Or is it World War II?
He fought in both.
both.
He fought
Yeah,
in both.
Both.
Yeah, my bad.
A fighter pilot.
Yeah. Also a pilot.
Yeah.
Like,
Crazy.
no big deal. Like flying around the Pacific and, you know,
And
getting
again,
shot at.
I will never forget in my career, one of the, you know, obviously I've been fortunate to do NFL for as long as I have, but before that at ESPN, that I was there for the 1999 All-Star game.
Uh-huh.
Remember that was when the home run derby with Sosa and McGuire, and it was the All-Century team where Costner read out the names of the All-Century team. They came out of the Fenway Park garage like it was coming out of the cornfield,
Sure.
right? The reason why I bring this up is Ted Williams threw out the first pitch that night, and he was held up by, I think it was Gwynn on one arm and Ken Griffey Jr. on the other. So he got up and he threw the first pitch to Carlton Fisk. I was standing there, and all of the All-Century team converges on the pitcher's mound, and I heard him. I overheard because I had to get out there just to hear what was going on and report on it. He asked Mark McGuire if when he hit a ball, if he hit it so hard that he could smell the wood burning. And that's where he said basically, McGuire just told me afterwards that he'd never been asked that because the answer was yes.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I mean, right?
There's so many stories about, and maybe they're all apocryphal, I don't know, but there's so many stories about how good his eyesight was.
Yes.
He could just see the ball. He'd say, they'd put shoe polish on the bat or whatever, and he'd say that I hit the left seam, right seam. Like and he would be right all the time.
Correct.
I see the seams. Like, and I play baseball. I'm terrible, but I still try. And it's, you know, I'm swinging at an area. You know, I'm not swinging at a seam.
Yeah, imagine hitting a baseball is like target practice.
Sure.
Unbelievable.
You know, there's guys like that just seem so. I mean, they're mythologized for a reason, but it's like Ted Williams, Stan Musial, another one, obviously closer to my kind of home base. But like these guys who are, you're just like, what is your day to day? You know, Stan Musial goes the same thing, fights in 2 wars, you know, takes time off, comes back, plays baseball, runs the team for a while, you know, manages the team for a while, and you just, you're that guy. That's your life. Worst ways to make money.
Stan the Man Musial, no doubt about that. So your next film, Tag, comes out in June.
Yeah.
This one's a little bit more funny than your current one now.
It's based on a true story, no joke, about these guys who have been playing a game of tag in their friend group for 30 years. They started as kids. They kept going through high school. Then they kept going and kept going. They played for 1 month out of the year. All bets are off, and you got to keep your head on a swivel. And one guy has never been tagged. That's the character played by Jeremy Renner. So we all decide this is the year we're going to gang up and we're going to get him. Like kind of last hurrah sort of thing. And it was a true story. It came out because my character was being interviewed for the Wall Street Journal about a completely unrelated subject about his company, which was he ran some, you know, Fortune 500 company. And during the interview, he's sitting down with the reporter for the Wall Street Journal. One of his friends busts in. He jumps up. They start chasing each other around the table, busts out of the office, through the office. Papers are flying, everything. The guy finally tags him, and the reporter is like, what was that? Does he want to explain that, please? And he's like, I play tag with my friends. We've been doing it for 30 years. Anyway, where were we? And the guy's like, no, we're going to talk about that for a little bit. And he wrote an article that appeared in the Wall Street Journal about this is what it is, and it became this film.
And Ed Helms is in it?
Ed Helms, myself, Jeremy Renner, Hannibal Buress, Jake Johnson, Annabelle Wallace, Isla Fisher, Leslie Bibb. We have like a great cast. It's really funny, and it has a kind of a sweet heart at the end. You know, it's like, it's about friendship. I mean, it's about what the dumb stuff you do with your friends, you know, and it's lovely at the end of the day, and it was a blast to make.
We've had Jake Johnson on this show. He wore his Mike Ditka sweater from the 1985 Bears. So I'm assuming you had a very nice chat with him about a Cardinals Cubs
definitely
series
did.
or
We had
five.
a lovely friendly rivalry. We would sit and basically watch baseball games on set.
I bet.
And make fun of each other.
His Ditka sweater. You remember those sweaters that
Yes,
him
I do.
And Ryan and Buddy Ryan used to wear those Bear sweaters. So that's Tag in June 15th.
Wasn't it funny? Don't you think about those sweaters? Like, did they just not make them big enough? Because they were always weirdly tight.
Well, I mean,
Right?
If you think about it, the Stockton shorts too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a different era.
Well,
John, just a different era.
Just don't you
different
think like
times,
they could have let it out? Like, Buddy Ryan's a bigger guy. Mike Ditka's a bigger guy. Get him an XL.
Give him a little room. Beirut in theaters now. Tag in theaters June 15th. And then again, I'm mandated to say here on audience, you're on every damn night here.
It's
7
so
Eastern
nice. I
time.
know it's nice to be on the same, share a network with you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And thank you for allowing me to rip off Don Draper's form for my mugs. Take that.
There
mug.
we go.
There you go. We put you on the Rich Eisen show. That is looking like Don Draper on my running.
Smoking,
right
drinking, and running.
That's fantastic.
If he can do that and not spill, that is an impressive move.
I can't wait for next year's combine. Good to see you. Good to see you, brother.
Likewise.
You
Thank
got
you
it.
so much.
Jon Hamm here on the Rich Eisen Show. We're off to Dallas. We'll explain what we're doing at the draft when we come back.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.